What happens when a single night shatters two lives forever? When a Korean mafia boss looks a woman in the eyes and calls her his biggest mistake, only to discover she's carrying his child. This isn't just another love story. This is about power, pride, and the price of denying what your heart knows is true. Kang Moo-hyun ruled Seoul's underworld with an iron fist, answering to no one, fearing nothing, until her, Nilo, a black American woman who walked into his world by accident and left him obsessed. But when she shows up at his office with an ultrasound image, he says the words that will haunt him. "You were just a one-night mistake." He thought that would be the end. He was wrong, because some mistakes don't disappear. They grow, they fight back, and they win. If you are ready for a story that will grip your heart and refuse to let go, hit that like button and subscribe, because this one doesn't end the way you think. 3 months earlier, the rain hammered Seoul's streets like God himself was angry. Nilo ducked into the first bar she saw, designer heels clicking against wet pavement, her curvy silhouette cutting through cigarette smoke and neon haze. She was in Korea for work, a marketing consultant for a luxury brand trying to break into Asian markets. Smart, ambitious, focused. She didn't do distractions. Nilo sat at the bar nursing a cocktail when she felt it, a presence, not threatening, not aggressive, but undeniable. She turned her head and saw him, Kang Moo-hyun, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit tailored so perfectly it looked like a second skin. His hair was slicked back, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass, but it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark, intense, unreadable, eyes that looked at her like she was the only person in the room. He didn't smile, didn't speak. He just watched. Nilo looked away first, her pulse quickening. She told herself it was nothing, a stranger staring. It happened. But when she glanced back, he was still there, still watching. Later that night, Moo-hyun approached. He didn't ask permission. He simply sat beside her, signaling the bartender with a subtle nod. 2 drinks appeared, one for him, one for her. "You don't belong here," Moo-hyun said. His English was flawless, though tinged with an accent that made every word sound deliberate. Nilo raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "This place," he continued, his gaze never leaving hers, "it's not for tourists." "Good thing I'm not a tourist," Nilo replied coolly. "I'm here for work." "Work." He repeated the word as if tasting it. "What kind of work brings someone like you to Seoul?" "Someone like me?" Nilo's tone sharpened. Moo-hyun leaned closer, just slightly. Beautiful, out of place, unbothered. She should have walked away, should have told him off, but something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, made her stay. "And what kind of work do you do?" Nilo asked. Moo-hyun's lips curved into the ghost of a smile. The kind people don't ask about. They talked for hours, or rather, Nilo talked. Moo-hyun listened. He asked questions about her life in New York, her job, her family, and absorbed every answer like it mattered. He didn't volunteer much about himself, but Nilo didn't press. There was something magnetic about his silence, the way he seemed to hold entire worlds behind his eyes. By the time the lounge began to empty, Nilo realized she didn't want the night to end. Neither did he. "Come with me," Moo-hyun said. It wasn't a question. Nilo hesitated. Every rational part of her brain screamed no, but the way he looked at her, the pull she felt toward him, it was stronger than logic. She nodded. That night blurred into images Nilo would replay 1,000 times later. His penthouse overlooking the Han River, the way he touched her like she was something precious and disposable all at once, the contrast of his pale fingers against her brown skin, the Korean words he whispered that she didn't understand but felt in her bones. For those few hours, she wasn't a careful woman with a 5-year plan. She was reckless, alive, burning. By morning, everything changed. She woke alone in tangled silk sheets, his side of the bed already cold. A note on the nightstand, written in sharp handwriting. This was a mistake. "Take your time, the door locks automatically." She stared at those words until they blurred. Then she dressed, left that penthouse, and flew back to Atlanta 3 days later, determined to forget Kang Moo-hyun ever existed. Her body had other plans. 6 weeks later, the pregnancy test mocked her from the bathroom counter. 2 pink lines, as clear as judgment, as clear as consequence. Nilo's hands shook as she calculated dates, rechecked possibilities, and came to the same impossible conclusion. The careful, ambitious woman who'd built her entire life on control was carrying the child of a Korean stranger who called her a mistake. She tried his number, blocked, searched his name online, nothing but ghost trails and rumors about organized crime in Seoul's Gangnam district. She even hired a private investigator who returned her money and a piece of advice. Whatever you think you know about Kang Moo-hyun, forget it. Men like him don't have children. They have liabilities. But this wasn't a liability. This was a heartbeat on an ultrasound screen. This was morning sickness and swollen ankles, and a future Nilo never imagined, but somehow couldn't imagine ending. She decided to keep the baby. She also decided Moo-hyun would never know. Some mistakes, she thought, you just live with alone. 2 months later. Fate, it turns out, has a sick sense of humor. Nilo's company sent her back to Seoul for a 3-month contract, unavoidable, unmovable, and timed exactly when her pregnancy would start showing through even the loosest clothes. She landed at Incheon Airport on a Tuesday morning, exhausted and nauseous, her secret pressing against the waistband of her jeans. The following evening, her colleague dragged her to a networking event at some upscale hotel in Gangnam. Nilo wore black, always black now, to hide the subtle swell of her stomach, and stood near the refreshments, sipping water and counting the minutes until she could leave. Then, the room went quiet. She looked up, and there he was, Kang Moo-hyun, surrounded by men in expensive suits who moved like trained soldiers. He looked exactly the same, beautiful and lethal, except his eyes were harder now, colder, like whatever warmth existed that night had frozen over completely. Their gazes locked. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by something Nilo couldn't name. Irritation? Surprise? Disdain. He dismissed the men with a gesture and walked toward her with that same predatory grace, and suddenly Nilo couldn't brave, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but stand there as her past collided with her present with the force of a bullet. Nilo Washington, Moo-hyun said, her name sounding like sin in his accent. I didn't expect to see you again. The feeling's mutual, she managed. His eyes traveled down her body again, slower this time, assessing. Did he notice? Could he tell? The dress was loose, but... You look different, he observed. It's been 4 months, Nilo said carefully. People change. Do they? Moo-hyun stepped closer, invading her space with deliberate intent. Or do they just get better at hiding things? Her heart hammered. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? His hand lifted, fingers brushing her jaw with touch so light it felt like threat and promise tangled together. You're lying about something. I can always tell when people lie. Before Nilo could respond, another man approached, older, severe, speaking rapid Korean. Moo-hyun's expression shifted, business sliding over whatever personal interest had flickered there. We'll finish this conversation later, he told Nilo, and walked away without looking back. She left the event immediately, heart racing, mind spinning. He couldn't know. She'd been careful. She just needed to avoid him for 3 months, finish her contract, and disappear back to Atlanta. Simple, she told herself. She had no idea how catastrophically wrong she was. The next day, Nilo woke to someone pounding on her hotel room door. She stumbled out of bed, pulled on a robe, and opened it to find a woman standing there, Korean, elegant, with eyes like cut glass. You're the American, the woman said in accented English. It wasn't a question. Who are you? Nilo asked. Minji, Kang Moo-hyun's fiancé. The word landed like a slap. And you need to stay away from him. Nilo's stomach turned. Fiancé. Of course he had a fiancé. Of course. I have no interest in your fiancé, Nilo said honestly. Then why did he spend an hour last night asking questions about you? Minji's smile was all edges. Why did he have someone follow you back to this hotel? Why is he obsessed with a woman he claims meant nothing? I don't know, Nilo said, and it was the truth. But whatever you think is happening, it's not. I'm just here for work. Good. Minji looked her up and down with open contempt. Keep it that way. Moo-hyun has responsibilities, a family to consider, political alliances that matter more than whatever novelty you represented. The word novelty hit exactly where Minji intended, a reminder that to them, Nilo would always be another, foreign, black, temporary. Are we done? Nilo asked quietly. Stay away from him, Minji repeated, then turned and walked away, heels clicking against marble like gunshots. Nilo closed the door, slid down to the floor, and finally let herself cry. Not because of Minji's words, not because Mu-hyun had a fiancé, but because the baby growing inside her would never be claimed by the man who created it. A few days later, Mu-hyun showed up at her hotel at midnight. Nilo opened the door to find him standing there in casual clothes, black jeans, black shirt, looking impossibly beautiful and impossibly dangerous under the hallway lights. We need to talk, he said. Your fiancé already delivered your message, Nilo replied. I'm staying away. Minji came here? Something dark crossed his face. What did she say to you? Does it Nahar? Nilo moved to close the door. His hand shot out, stopping it. Let me in. No. Nilo. Her name again, rough and raw in his mouth. Please. That please, unexpected, unguarded, made her hesitate just long enough. He pushed inside, closed the door behind him, and suddenly the hotel room felt impossibly small. Why are you here? Nilo asked, wrapping her robe tighter, hyper-aware of the secret hiding beneath silk. I don't know, Mu-hyun admitted, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain. I told myself that night meant nothing. I've had dozens of women, hundreds. You were supposed to be forgettable. Thanks, Nilo said dryly. But you're not. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers with intensity that stripped her bare. I can't stop thinking about you, about that night, about the way you looked at me like human instead of... He stopped himself. Instead of what? Nilo pressed. A monster, he finished, quietly. The confession hung between them, heavy and dangerous. You have a fiancé, Nilo reminded him, even as her body remembered his hands, his mouth, the way he'd made her feel like the only woman in the universe. An arrangement, Mu-hyun said dismissively. Political, necessary, not real. Does she know that? Minji understands how our world works. I don't. Nilo stepped back, needing distance. I don't understand any of this. We had one night, Mu-hyun. You made it very clear it was a mistake, so why are you here? He moved fast, closing the space between them, his hands framing her face with surprising gentleness. Because I can't breathe when I think about you with someone else. Because I sent men to investigate your entire life. Because I'm going insane trying to figure out why one woman, one night, won't leave my head. His thumb brushed her lower lip. Tell me you feel nothing, he whispered. Tell me that night meant nothing to you and I'll walk away. I'll never bother you again. Nilo should have lied, should have protected herself, protected the secret growing inside her. Instead, she said, I can't. Something ignited in his eyes. Then his mouth was on hers, desperate and demanding, and Nilo was kissing him back like she could drink in everything she'd been denying for months. His hands slid down her body, and she felt the moment he noticed, the slight swell, the change in her shape. He pulled back, eyes dropping to where his palm rested against her stomach. Nilo? He said slowly, carefully. What? A phone rang. His phone, cutting through the moment like a blade. He answered in rapid Korean, his expression shifting from confusion to fury in seconds. I have to go, he said, already moving toward the door. There's a situation. We'll finish this tomorrow. Then he was gone, leaving Nilo shaking and terrified because he'd felt it, he'd noticed, and tomorrow she'd have to tell him the truth. The following morning, Nilo woke to her phone buzzing, a text from an unknown number. Come to this address, alone. We need to talk. Mu-hyun. The address was in Gangnam, an area Nilo didn't know well. She almost didn't go, almost booked a flight back to Atlanta and ran from everything. But the pregnancy hormones, the sleepless nights, the weight of carrying this secret alone, it had all exhausted her past caring. She went. The building was sleek, modern, with security that looked like military operatives in expensive suits. They let her through without question, and Nilo realized with growing unease exactly how much surveillance Mu-hyun had on her. He waited in a penthouse office, standing by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. When he turned, his face was unreadable. "You're pregnant," he said. No preamble, no warmth. Nilo's breath caught. "How?" "I had your hotel room searched while you slept." He gestured to a desk where her prenatal vitamins, ultrasound images, and medical paperwork were laid out like evidence. 3 months, which means, "It's yours," Nilo finished quietly. "Yes." Silence, long and suffocating. Then, "Why didn't you tell me?" "You called me a mistake," Nilo said, her voice stronger than she felt. "You told me not to contact you. What was I supposed to do? Force my way back into your life with a baby you clearly didn't want?" Mu-hyun's jaw tightened. "That's not your decision to make. My body, my choice, my life." Nilo stepped forward, refusing to be intimidated. "I came to Seoul for work, not for you. I was managing fine alone." "Managing," he laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think raising a child alone in a foreign country while working full-time is managing? Better than forcing a connection with someone who feels nothing." "Who said I feel nothing?" The question landed like a punch. Nilo stared at him, searching for something, anything beyond the cold mask he wore. "Look at me, Mu-hyun," she said, softly. "Look at this situation. You have a fiancé, a life, a world I don't fit into. This baby, our baby, deserves better than being someone's dirty secret or political liability." "You don't know what my child deserves," Mu-hyun said, voice dropping to something dangerous. "You don't know anything about my world. Then enlighten me." He crossed to her, towering over her, and for a moment Nilo saw past the Mafia boss to the man underneath, complicated, damaged, furious. "My world," he said, quietly, "eats people like you alive. It destroys anything soft or kind or good. That's why I pushed you away. That's why I called it a mistake, because being connected to me is a death sentence, Nilo." And now, his hand hovered over her stomach, not quite touching. "Now, you've given me the one thing I can't walk away from." "The baby," Nilo whispered. "Yes." His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something crack in his armor. "I don't love you, I barely know you, but that child is mine, and I protect what's mine." The words should have hurt. Instead, they felt like the first honest thing he'd said. "So, what happens now?" Nilo asked. "Now you move into my protected residence. Now you stop working. Stress isn't good for the baby. Now you let me handle everything. I'm not some doll you can lock away." "You are the mother of my child," Mu-hyun interrupted, steel returning to his voice, "which makes you the most valuable target in Seoul. Every enemy I have will want to use you against me. Every rival will see you as a weakness. So yes, you'll do exactly as I say, or you'll get yourself and that baby killed." "And if I refuse?" His smile was cold. "Then I'll make it impossible for you to leave the country. I'll freeze your accounts. I'll have you declared mentally unfit. I'll do whatever it takes to keep my child safe, even from its own stupidity." Nilo's hands curled into fists. "You're a monster." "Yes," Mu-hyun agreed easily, "but I'm the monster who's going to keep you alive. Get your things. You have 2 hours." He walked out, leaving Nilo shaking and terrified, because despite everything, despite his coldness, his cruelty, his total lack of love, there had been something in his eyes when he looked at her stomach, something that looked almost like wonder. That evening, the protected residence was less prison and more gilded cage, luxury penthouse, armed guards, every comfort except freedom. Nilo stood at the window, watching Seoul's lights blur through glass, feeling like she'd stepped into a nightmare with no exit. Behind her, the door opened. Mu-hyun entered without knocking, his space, his rules. "You haven't eaten," he observed, gesturing to the untouched dinner on the table. "I'm not hungry." "The baby needs the frisson." "The baby," Nilo repeated, turning to face him. "Not me, not you, just the baby. That's all you care about." Mu-hyun's expression didn't change. "Yes." The honesty cut deeper than any lie. "What about after?" Nilo asked. "After the baby is born? What then? You keep me locked up, take my child, and throw me away like you did before?" "I haven't decided yet." How generous. He crossed to her slowly, and Nilo forced herself not to retreat. You're angry, he said. I'm trapped. You're safe. His hand lifted, fingers tangling in her hair with unexpected gentleness. There's a difference. Nilo's breath hitched at his touch, her body betraying her with its response. Don't. Don't what? Muyan leaned closer, his mouth hovering near her ear. Don't touch you? Don't remind you that 4 months ago you were begging for exactly this? Heat flooded through her, anger and desire twisted into something volatile. That was before you knew who I really was, he finished. Before you knew what I'm capable of. Tell me, Nilo, does knowing I'm a monster make you want me less or more? She should have pushed him away, should have slapped him, screamed at him, done anything except close her eyes and breathe in his scent like she was drowning and he was air. I hate you, she whispered. I know. His lips brushed her neck, feather light. But your body doesn't. Muyan, say my name again, he demanded against her skin, like you did that night, like you meant it. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. He didn't love her. He was using her. She was just an incubator for his air. But God help her, when his mouth found hers, Nilo kissed him back with 4 months of loneliness and longing and fury poured into every desperate touch. They made it to the bedroom, and this time, when they came together, it wasn't a mistake. It was a war neither of them could win. The morning after, Nilo woke to an empty bed again. Some patterns, she thought bitterly, never changed. But this time, there was no cold note. Instead, Muyan sat in the chair by the window, fully dressed, watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. How long have you been sitting there? She asked, pulling the sheet higher. An hour, maybe 2. He stood, moving to the bed with that controlled grace. We need to discuss arrangements. Arrangements, Nilo repeated flatly. How romantic. This isn't romance, Nilo. It's survival. He sat on the edge of the mattress, close enough to touch but not touching. My engagement to Minji will continue publicly. It's necessary for political alliances with her family. But privately, you are carrying my child. That makes you your secret, Nilo finished. Your dirty little secret tucked away while you play happy fiancé. My responsibility, Muyan corrected sharply. There's a difference. Not to me. Nilo sat up, ignoring how his eyes tracked the movement of the sheet slipping. I won't be hidden away like something shameful. This baby deserves better. I deserve better. What you deserve, he said coldly, is irrelevant. What keeps you both alive is all that matters. Then maybe I should just go home, raise the baby in Atlanta where your enemies can't find us. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist with controlled pressure. You're not going anywhere. You can't keep me prisoner forever. Watch me. But something flickered in his eyes. Frustration, maybe, or something deeper. Why do you fight me on everything? Because you treat me like property, Nilo shot back. Because last night you touched me like I mattered, and this morning you're back to acting like I'm just an inconvenient complication. Muyan's grip loosened, his thumb stroking her pulse point almost absently. Last night was... He stopped, jaw tightening. A mistake. There was that word again, the word that defined everything between them. Of course it was, Nilo said quietly, pulling her hand away. Everything with you is a mistake, isn't it? Except now we're stuck making mistakes together for the next 6 months. He stood abruptly, straightening his suit jacket. I have business today. Don't leave this residence. Don't contact anyone without approval. And eat something. The doctor will be here at 2 to check on the pregnancy. My name is Nilo, she said to his retreating back. Not the pregnancy, not the mother. Nilo. He paused at the door, looked back with eyes that held winter. I know your name. Do you? Or am I just another asset you're managing? For a long moment they stared at each other across the expensive bedroom, 2 people caught in a trap neither had planned. Then Muyan left without answering, and Nilo was alone again with her questions and the life growing inside her that tied her to a man who couldn't or wouldn't feel. A week later, the doctor visits became routine. So did the isolation. Nilo spent her days in the penthouse, watching Seoul happen without her, feeling more like a prisoner than ever. Muhyun came and went like a ghost, sometimes gone for days, sometimes appearing at odd hours to check that she'd eaten, that the baby was fine, that she was following his rules. He never stayed long, never touched her again, never looked at her the way he had that night when everything blurred into heat and need. It was driving her insane. On the 8th day, Nilo decided she was done waiting for permission to live. She dressed carefully, hiding her small bump under loose clothes, and slipped past the guards during a shift change. Freedom tasted like Seoul's night air, polluted and perfect. She walked without destination, just needing to feel human again, until she found herself in Hongdae, surrounded by young people and noise and life. A club called Eclipse pulsed with music, and Nilo almost went inside before remembering she was pregnant and probably shouldn't. "Lost?" a voice asked in English. She turned to find a man, Korean, early 30s, handsome in a casual way that was nothing like Moo-hyun's dangerous beauty. He smiled, friendly and open. "Just exploring," Nilo replied carefully. "I'm Jay," he offered. "You're American?" "Atlanta. I'm here for work." The lie came easily now. They talked. Jay was funny, normal, the kind of man Nilo would have been interested in before her life became this complicated nightmare. He bought her tea from a street vendor, walked with her through the neighborhood, and made her laugh for the first time in weeks. She didn't notice the car following them. By the time Nilo saw the black sedan, it was too late. Men emerged, Moo-hyun's men, and suddenly Jay was pressed against a wall, a gun to his head, while another guard gripped Nilo's arm. "Wait, he didn't do anything," she started. "Boss's orders," the guard said in accented English. "Anyone who touches you dies." "He wasn't touching me, we were just talking." But they were already dragging her toward the car, leaving Jay terrified against the wall. The last thing Nilo saw before being pushed into the back seat was his confused, frightened face. Guilt and rage warred in her chest during the silent drive back. Moo-hyun waited in the penthouse, fury radiating from every line of his body. "What were you thinking?" he demanded the moment she walked in. "I was thinking I'm a human being who needs fresh air. I was thinking that being locked up like Rapunzel is making me lose my mind." "You were thinking," he said, voice dropping to something lethal, "that you could disobey direct orders and endanger yourself and my child without consequences." "Our child," she corrected, "and I wasn't in danger. I was having tea with a nice guy who actually treats me like a person." Something dark crossed Moo-hyun's face. A nice guy. Yes, novel concept, I know. He moved fast, backing her against the wall, his body caging hers. "Did he touch you?" "What?" "Did he touch you?" Each word was ground glass. "He held my arm when we crossed the street," Nilo said, refusing to be intimidated. "That's it. And even if he had done more, it's none of your business. You made it very clear I'm just an incubator." His mouth crashed against hers, brutal and possessive, swallowing her protest. It wasn't like before. No gentleness, no heat, just raw claiming. When he pulled back, his eyes were black with something that looked like madness. "You are mine," he said against her lips. "Mine. Not his, not anyone's. Mine. You don't own me. I own everything about you." His hand slid to her stomach, pressing against the small swell. "This baby, this body, every breath you take while you're under my protection. Mine, Nilo. Say it. Go to hell." His laugh was bitter. "I'm already there. Have been since the night I met you and couldn't forget." He released her abruptly, stepping back like she'd burned him. "The man you spoke to tonight, Jay, he's been dealt with." Horror flooded through her. "What did you do?" "Nothing permanent, just made sure he understands that looking at you again would be a fatal mistake." Moo-hyun's smile was cruel. "You want to know why I'm keeping you locked up, Nilo? Because I can't trust myself. Because seeing you with another man makes me want to paint Seoul red. Because you're the only thing in this world that makes me feel, and I hate you for it." The confession hung between them, raw and terrible. "You're insane," Nilo whispered. "Yes," he agreed easily, "and you're trapped with me. So I suggest you learn to live with it." He left her standing there, shaking with adrenaline and fury, and, God help her, desire, because some broken part of her responded to his obsession, even knowing it was toxic. This wasn't love, this was possession, and Nilo was drowning in it. 2 weeks later, the ultrasound appointment changed everything. Moo-hyun insisted on coming, his first time attending anything pregnancy-related. They sat in the doctor's office, tension thick between them, while the technician prepared the equipment. "This will be cold," the technician said in English, spreading gel across Nilo's exposed belly. The monitor flickered to life, grainy images that resolved into something miraculous. A tiny form, curled and perfect, with a heartbeat that filled the room like thunder. Nilo couldn't breathe, couldn't look away. Beside her, Moo-hyun went completely still. "Baby looks healthy," the technician said, smiling. "Would you like to know the gender?" "Yes," Moo-hyun said before Nilo could answer. His voice sounded strange, rough.
"Congratulations, you're having a son." A son. Nilo looked at Moo-hyun and saw something she'd never seen before. His mask had cracked completely, revealing devastation underneath. His hand reached for hers, squeezing tight, and his eyes were locked on that screen like it held the secrets of the universe. He stopped, tried again. "That's my son." "Yes," Nilo said softly. "He's real." Moo-hyun's voice broke on the word. I didn't." He couldn't finish. The technician discreetly left them alone. In the dim room, with their son's heartbeat echoing around them, Moo-hyun did something unexpected. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead to Nilo's hand, and for just a moment, he wasn't a mafia boss or a monster. He was just a man confronting fatherhood and drowning in it. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. "Neither do I," Nilo replied. "But we'll figure it out." "Will we?" He looked up, and his eyes were haunted. "I've killed men, Nilo, dozens, maybe hundreds. I've done things that would make you run screaming. How am I supposed to hold something that innocent?" "The same way I am," she said, carefully, with love. "I don't know how to love." "Then learn." Her free hand touched his face, surprising them both. "For him, if not for me, then for our son." Something shifted in Moo-hyun's expression, a crack widening into a chasm. "What if I can't?" "Then we're all in trouble," Nilo said honestly. He pulled away, mask sliding back into place, but slower this time, clumsier. "We should go. I have a meeting." But as they left the clinic, he kept looking back at the ultrasound pictures in his hand, like they were magic, or curse, or both. And for the first time since this nightmare started, Nilo felt something like hope. It wouldn't last. That night, the attack came at 2 a.m. Nilo awoke to gunfire and shouting. Moo-hyun burst into her room, already dressed, gun in hand. "Get up, now." He pulled her from bed, thrust clothes at her. "Put these on, 30 seconds. "What's happening?" "We're under siege, rival family. They know about you." His face was stone. "Move, Nilo." She dressed with shaking hands while he stood guard at the door. More gunfire, closer now. The lights cut out, plunging them into darkness broken only by emergency lighting. "Stay behind me," Moo-hyun ordered, gripping her hand. "No matter what you see, don't stop moving." They ran through corridors that had become war zones. Bodies, guards she recognized, lay in spreading pools. Nilo bit back a scream, focused on Moo-hyun's hand pulling her forward, his body shielding hers at every turn. They made it to an emergency exit just as an explosion rocked the building. The impact threw them both forward. Nilo hit concrete hard, pain spiking through her side. Above her, Moo-hyun was already up, firing at shadows, his face a mask of lethal focus. "The car, go!" he shouted. But Nilo couldn't move. The pain in her side had sharpened into something terrible, and when she looked down, she saw blood spreading across her shirt. "Moo-hyun," she gasped. He turned, saw the blood, and something broke in his face. "No, no!" More gunfire. He fired back without looking, dropped to her side. "Stay with me. You don't dare." His hands pressed against her wound, trying to stem the bleeding. You don't get to leave. You don't. The baby, Nilo whispered. Please, the baby. Sirens screamed in the distance. Back up, finally. Muyan lifted her like she weighed nothing, ran for the waiting car, and Nilo's vision blurred into fragments, his face above hers, desperate and destroyed, the taste of blood in her mouth, the feeling of life slipping away. Don't leave me, Nilo. And he was crying, actually crying. Please, Nilo, please don't leave. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have told you. Told me what? That you matter, that you're not just... His voice broke completely. That I love you. God help me, I love you, so you don't dare die on me now. But Nilo was already fading, her last thought a bitter irony. He finally said he loved her, and she wouldn't survive to hear it again. The world went black. 3 days later, Nilo awoke to the steady beep of hospital machines and pain radiating through her entire body. It took several seconds to remember. The attack, the blood, Muyan's face above hers, the baby. Her hand flew to her stomach, finding bandages but no longer pregnant swell. Panic seized her chest. He's alive. She turned her head to find Muyan sitting in the corner, looking like death. Unshaven, hollow-eyed, older somehow. What? Her voice came out as a croak. Your son. He stood, moved to the bedside with careful steps. They had to do an emergency cesarean. You were bleeding internally. They saved you both. He's too early. 24 weeks. 25, Muyan corrected quietly, and he's a fighter, like his mother. He pressed a button, and a nurse appeared almost instantly. She's awake. Get the doctor. The next hour blurred into medical explanations, internal injuries, emergency surgery, a son born 3 months premature now fighting for life in the ICU. Nilo listened in numb shock, her body present but her mind still catching up. When the doctors finally left, she and Muyan were alone again. I want to see him. You can't walk yet. Maybe tomorrow. Now, she insisted. I need to see my son now. Something in her voice made him yield. He arranged for a wheelchair, helped her into it with surprising gentleness, and pushed her through sterile hospital corridors to the ICU. Their son lay in an incubator, so small Nilo's heart shattered just looking at him. Tubes and wires covered his tiny body, machines breathing for him, but he was alive.
Moving, fighting. He's beautiful, she whispered. He's terrifying, Muhyan admitted. I've never been afraid of anything in my life until now. They sat there for hours, watching their son fight, neither speaking much, but both feeling everything. Finally, Nilo asked the question burning inside her. What you said during the attack, about loving me, did you mean it? Muhyan's jaw tightened. Does it matter? Yes. Why? Because I need to know, Nilo said, turning to look at him fully. I need to know if there's anything real between us, or if this is just what? Obligation? Guilt? He laughed bitterly. I wish it was that simple. I wish I could look at you and feel nothing. But I can't. You're in my head constantly. Your laugh, your stubborn defiance, the way you look at me like I'm human, despite knowing exactly what I am. His hands clenched. So yes, I meant it. I love you, and I hate that I love you because it makes me weak. Love isn't weakness, Nilo said softly. In my world, it's fatal. Then maybe your world needs to change. Before he could respond, alarms erupted from their son's incubator. Nurses rushed in, surrounding the tiny body with urgent movements. What's happening? Nilo tried to stand, pain forgotten. Complications, a nurse said tersely. You need to leave. That's my son, and we're trying to save him, the doctor cut in sharply. Out. Now. They were ushered into the hallway. Through the glass, Nilo watched medical staff work on her baby with desperate efficiency, and she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel terror like she'd never known. Muhyan pulled her against him, his arms tight around her, and they stood there holding each other while their son fought for his life. He'll make it, Muhyan said against her hair. He has to. I'll make deals with every devil in hell if that's what it takes. You can't bargain with this, Nilo whispered.
Watch me." Hours later, their son stabilized, barely. The doctor explained in careful terms that the next 48 hours were critical, that they should prepare for anything. Prepare for loss, he meant. Nilo returned to her room in a daze. Moo-hyun stayed, refusing to leave despite hospital rules, and she was grateful because she couldn't be alone. Not now. "This is my fault," he said suddenly into the darkness. "The attack, your injuries, the baby coming too early, all of it is because of me." "Don't," Nilo said. "It's true. Being connected to me almost killed you both. But it didn't. This time." He turned to face her, eyes reflecting dim light. "What about next time? Because there will be a next time, Nilo. My enemies won't stop. They'll keep coming after everything I care about until there's nothing left. So what are you saying?" "I'm saying—" He stopped, something breaking in his expression. "I'm saying maybe you were right. Maybe you should take our son and go back to Atlanta. Disappear where my world can't touch you." Nilo sat up, despite the pain, staring at him. "You're giving up." "I'm letting you go," he corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" She leaned forward. "Or are you just running because you're finally feeling something and it scares you?" "Of course it scares me," Moo-hyun said roughly. "Loving you, loving him, it terrifies me, because I know how this ends. I know what happens to people I care about in this life. They survive, they fight, they don't give up just because things get hard. You don't understand. I understand perfectly." She reached for his hand, gripping tight. "I understand that you're human, that you're scared, that you think you don't deserve happiness. But our son deserves a father, Moo-hyun, a real one, not some ghost who gave up before even trying." "What if I fail?" The question came out broken. "What if I become the monster my father was?" "What if you don't?" Nilo countered. "What if you're exactly the father our son needs?" They stared at each other across the dim room, possibility hanging between them like fragile hope. Then Moo-hyun's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going blank. "When? Are you certain? Location?" He hung up, stood. "It's Minji. She's the one who ordered the attack." Her roar flooded through Nilo. "Your fiancé." "Ex-fiancé," Moo-hyun corrected coldly. "Apparently, she decided that eliminating you would solve all her problems. She hired the rival family, provided building plans, everything. What are you going to do?" His smile was winter incarnate. "What I do to everyone who threatens what's mine." He bent, kissed Nilo's forehead with surprising gentleness. "I'll be back by morning. Stay here. Stay safe." "Moo-hyun, don't do anything." But he was already gone, leaving Nilo alone with her fear and the terrible knowledge of what he was capable of. She didn't sleep that night, just stared at the ceiling and prayed for her son, for Moo-hyun, for all of them caught in this nightmare. Moo-hyun returned at dawn, blood on his sleeves, something dead in his eyes. "It's done," was all he said. Nilo didn't ask for details. Didn't want to know. They sat together in silence until the doctor came with news. Their son had made it through the critical period. He still had a long fight ahead, weeks probably, but he'd made it through. Nello cried then, relief and exhaustion and too many emotions to name. Moo-hyun held her through all of it, his own tears silent on her hair. "I need to tell you something," he said when she finally quieted. "What?" "I've made arrangements. A house in Atlanta, far from Seoul. Security, but discreet. Enough money that you'll never have to work again. A life for you and our son, completely separate from mine." Nella pulled back, searching his face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I love you both too much to keep you in my world." His voice was steady, resolved. "I'm saying you were right from the beginning. You deserve better than me. Our son deserves better than growing up surrounded by violence." "So you're leaving us," Nello said flatly. "I'm setting you free." He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheek. "I'll provide everything you need. I'll visit when it's safe, but I won't trap you in this life anymore. That's not your choice to make alone." "Yes, it is." Moo-hyun stood, putting distance between them.
Because I love you, Nello, and because I love you, I'm walking away. That's not love, she said, voice breaking. That's cowardice. Maybe. He moved to the door, looked back one last time. But it's the only way I know to keep you alive. Then he left, really left, and Nello understood with terrible clarity that this was goodbye. Not the dramatic fight for love goodbye of movies, but the realistic, messy, complicated goodbye of two people who loved each other but couldn't make it work. She never saw him again. 6 months later, in Atlanta. Nello sat in the rocking chair, her son finally home from the hospital, finally healthy enough to cry and eat and grow like normal babies. She'd named him Kai, Korean for victory, because he'd fought so hard to be here. The house Moo-hyun had arranged was beautiful, secure, empty of everything except money and memories. He kept his promise about providing. Money appeared in accounts she couldn't trace, security watched from shadows, but Moo-hyun himself? Nothing. No calls, no visits, no evidence he even remembered they existed. Until today. 3 years later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a letter in Korean and English, and a small black box. The letter read, "To Nello and Kai. By the time you read this, I'll be dead. Not dramatically, just inevitably. My world caught up with me, as it always does. I don't regret loving you. I regret that love wasn't enough to change what I am." In the box is a key to an account, enough for Kai's entire life, education, everything. Raise him to be better than me. Raise him to be good. I'm sorry I couldn't be the father he deserved, but I'm grateful you're the mother he needs. Tell him about me someday. Tell him I tried. Moo-hyun. Inside the box, a key, and a single photograph of Moo-hyun holding newborn Kai in the NICU, his face transformed with wonder. Nello cried until she couldn't anymore, holding her son and that photograph like they were all that remained of something beautiful and broken. Because that's what this was. Not a happy ending, not a romance, not a fairy tale. Just the realistic, heartbreaking aftermath of loving someone impossible. That night, Nello saw news coverage of gang violence in Seoul. A body was found, identified as Kang Moo-hyun. The reports called him a criminal, a monster, a stain on the city. Nello turned off the television and looked at Kai. 3 years